The Money Maga Stole that they don't want you to know about. Waffles Mcgrawl. May 24, 2025. I have said, so many times, for the last 3 years that these guys are engaging in racketeering and are stealing our tax money. This was all planned. Remember, Trump was president when the pandemic began. He has been caught multiple times engaging in interference, making phone calls to direct Congress during the Biden presidency. He has several times violated the Logan Act in communicating with foreign leaders from adversarial nations during his time out of office during the Biden administration. Somewhere in the middle of all of this, if you pay enough attention to what is going on, what these people have been doing, and what we might be able to do about it, you will also find Russian involvement in the middle of all of this. The actions of DOJ in tampering with federal computers and firing a massive amount of staff at our federal agencies is no coincidence. It is incredibly likely these are attempts to cover up crimes that were committed during the periods of 2020 to 2024. The United States Congress deliberately defunded our federal agencies to prevent investigation into these matters during the period of 2020 to 2024, and I feel I have every reason to believe what we are seeing today with our federal agencies is to hide evidence of a crime, in particular, the crime of racketeering and defrauding the United States of America. We should not be sitting idly by while these pathetic criminals continue to attack our nation. They need to be held accountable. Here's the evidence. Based on the research reports provided, I'll give you a comprehensive overview of the fraud that occurred at U.S. federal agencies between 2020 to 2024. I'll break this down into major categories for better understanding. Scale of federal agency fraud. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, has provided stark estimates of the financial impact of fraud within federal agencies. Between 2018 and 2022, the federal government lost an estimated $233 billion to $521 billion annually to fraud. For fiscal year 2024 alone, there were approximately $162 billion in improper payments, with a significant portion attributed to overpayments and fraud. COVID-19 Relief Program fraud. The pandemic relief programs saw some of the most significant instances of fraud during this period. Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, and EIDL. The Small Business Administration, SBA, distributed approximately $1.2 trillion through these programs. An estimated $200 billion was identified as potentially fraudulent, representing about 17% of total funds. The SBA's fraud detection efforts were compromised due to late implementation of anti-fraud processes, flawed machine learning tools for fraud detection, ineffective referral processes with nearly 3 million referrals, of which 2 million were not actionable, data sharing restrictions with other agencies like the IRS and SSA, unemployment insurance fraud. Approximately $191 billion in potentially fraudulent unemployment insurance payments were distributed during the pandemic. Recovery efforts have been ongoing but challenging. Procurement and contracting fraud. Several major cases of procurement fraud were uncovered. Envistacom LLC case, 2022. $7 million procurement fraud scheme. Involved preparation of sham competitive quotes. False statements to federal contracting officials. IT Products and Services Fraud, 2024. Multiple defendants charged with bid rigging, bribery, and kickbacks. Resulted in millions in overcharges to the U.S. government. Particularly affected the Department of Defense. Military Equipment Procurement Fraud, 2021. Involved selling Chinese-made military equipment to the Department of Defense. False claims of U.S. manufacturing. Included altered test reports to hide product origin. GSA contract kickback scheme. Involved John J. Perzabilla and Elmer Baker. Kickbacks in exchange for steering multi-million-dollar GSA project work. Used fake invoices to cover up illegal payments. Benefits and assistance program fraud. Medicare and Medicaid fraud. Common fraudulent practices included billing for services not provided, performing unnecessary medical tests and procedures, fraudulent billing practices, The False Claims Act, FCA, has been used to combat this type of fraud. The Healthcare Fraud and Abuse Control, HCFAC, program has recovered billions annually. Social Security fraud. Primary types of fraud included making false statements, misrepresenting information, concealing facts affecting benefit eligibility, identity theft, misuse of benefits by representative payees, oversight and prevention efforts, GAO initiatives, development of fraud risk framework, creation of anti-fraud resource tools, regular reporting on improper payments and fraud risks, Inspector General activities, regular compliance monitoring with the Payment Integrity Information Act of 2019, investigation and prosecution of fraud cases, interagency cooperation, coordination between federal and state agencies, joint investigations and prosecutions, enhanced data sharing initiatives, though with some limitations. The period from 2020 to 2024 saw unprecedented levels of fraud across federal agencies, particularly exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and its associated relief programs. While oversight agencies have made significant efforts to combat fraud, the sheer scale and sophistication of fraudulent activities have presented ongoing challenges for prevention and recovery efforts. Total estimated federal fraud losses, 2020 to 2025. Waffles Mcgrawl. May 24, 2025. Overall estimate range. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, estimates that the federal government loses between $233 billion to $521 billion annually to fraud based on data from fiscal years 2018 through 2022. This means over the roughly 5-year period from 2020 to 2025, the total fraud losses could range from approximately $1.165 trillion to $2.605 trillion. Major components of fraud losses. COVID-19 related fraud. Paycheck Protection Program, at least $64 billion lost to fraudulent claims. Federal unemployment system, over $191 billion exploited through fraud. Total COVID-19 relief fraud identified, over $2 billion in criminally charged cases involving approximately 3,500 defendants. Seized or forfeited CARES Act funds, over $1.4 billion. Healthcare fraud. Healthcare fraud schemes including PPP and EIDL programs resulted in over $76 million seized or frozen. In FY 2020 alone, healthcare fraud cases involved billing of more than $4.7 billion. Government benefits fraud. Median loss per case, $170,613. Cases involving losses greater than $550,000 were reported. 16.3% increase in government benefits fraud cases in FY 2023, showing a 92.2% increase since FY 2019. Important context. It's crucial to note that these numbers represent detected and reported fraud cases. The actual total could be significantly higher due to unreported cases, ongoing investigations, sophisticated fraud schemes that remain undetected, delays in fraud detection and reporting, cases still pending in the legal system. The broad range in the GAO's estimate, $233 minus $521 billion annually, reflects the complexity and challenges in precisely quantifying fraud losses across all federal agencies. However, based on the available data and various fraud categories reported, it's reasonable to estimate that the total fraud losses across all federal agencies between 2020 to 2025 falls within the range of $1.165 trillion to $2.605 trillion. In summary, members of Congress are not immune from criminal prosecution and can be imprisoned if found guilty of serious crimes. The constitutional protections in place are designed to ensure the independence of the legislative branch but do not provide a shield against criminal accountability. In these critical times, your support is more important than ever. Every share, new subscriber, and contribution amplifies our collective voice. If you haven't already, consider becoming a paid subscriber. Your support enables us to continue exposing corruption and hold those responsible accountable. Please help us continue to be able to do this work and contribute if you can. Cash App, $Waffles Mcgrawl. Venmo, at @Waffles_Mcgrawl. Together, we can make a difference. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button, share this content and subscribe to this channel.